Good afternoon and welcome to our live coverage of South Korea's Armed Forces Day Military Parade. It's Tuesday, October 1st. I'm Song Yujin, coming to you live from our studio in Seoul. Now, in just a few moments, we'll take you to Central Seoul, where the military parade commemorating the 76th anniversary of the founding of the Republic of Korea Armed Forces is set to begin. Now, this parade is one of the two main events held today following the commemorative ceremony that took place this morning at the Seoul Air Base in Seongnam City, Gyeonggi-do Province. So, to give us a deeper understanding of the parade and the opportunity to see South Korea's latest weapon systems up close, we're joined by two esteemed experts in the studio today. First of all, to my left, and for those of you who are watching on your screens right, we have General Chun In-bum, former commander of the Republic of Korea Special Forces. Welcome, General Chun. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you for the invitation.
Thank you. And to my right, and for those of you who are watching on your screens left, we have Professor Kim Jun-mo from the Department of Public Administration at Konkuk University in Seoul. Welcome, Professor.
My pleasure.
It's also a pleasure to have you on our show. So, as we wait for the military parade to start off, I want to first ask our experts, what significance does the Armed Forces Day military parade hold?
Well, I think, first of all, it's important for all of us to remember that freedom is not free,
right.
That many sacrifices occur, and at least one day out of a year that we remember these sacrifices now, presently, and before, and in the future. Secondly, I think all the equipment and the men and women that are showcased today reflects the readiness of the Korean military. And finally, the resolve of the Korean people. And if you notice today during the parade, you will see Allied soldiers participating as well.
Right.
So I think it shows that the Republic of Korea is supported by the international community, especially the United States forces in Korea. So I think those are the main significant factors of today's parade.
I couldn't agree more, General Chun. Now, Professor Kim, what are your thoughts on the significance of this military parade?
Military parade symbolizes strength, morale, and readiness of the armed forces. Because of this reason, many countries are holding this event regularly to demonstrate their forces' potentials. So that's the first meaning. And for citizens and taxpayers, they should be proud to find their contribution being materialized. And for younger generation, they should take pride and self-esteem for the country.
Right. And what especially took attention this year when the government announced that the military parade will take place this year as well is because this is actually the second consecutive year that the Armed Forces military parade has taken place. Before, it used to take place every 5 years. So, General Chun, why do you think the government decided to hold this military parade back-to-back this year as well?
I think we've come to the conclusion that 5 years is too much of a separation. I believe that the initial decision to do so was because of financial cost, diverting soldiers from the frontline duties, but more so that some people thought it was a militaristic ceremony, which I cannot agree with. But the byproduct was that a lot of people forgot why the military is important.
Definitely.
And I think this is very, very dangerous. And I'm supportive of the present government in that they at least want to spend one day out of a year, despite all the financial costs that might be involved, to make sure that the people, as well as the international community, understands the resolve of the Korean people.
Right. And as we're speaking here in the studio, you are currently watching the live footage of the military parade that is soon set to begin. Now, I want to ask you the same question, Professor Kim. What do you think why do you think the government decided to hold the ceremony back-to-back?
Yeah.
And Professor Kim, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but we're currently seeing South Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol entering the site of the military parade. Now, could you please proceed with your answer?
Yes. On the surface, it looks unusual, but there are other values that will outweigh the 5-year cycles that we think that was normal. First, this parade can boost morale of the armed forces. Second, it can give national pride to citizens. Also, it can boost defense exports directly, indirectly. And finally, and perhaps most importantly, from government point of view and armed forces point of view, it can show government and armed forces resolve to continue their duty to defend the country.
So that's why this year's military parade is being highly anticipated here in the country. Now, we are currently seeing President Yoon Suk-yeol entering the military parade, now, which means that this military parade is now about to begin. Now, I want to ask you, General Chun, what do you expect from this year's military parade, which is about to begin very soon?
I think they're going to showcase all of the Korean capabilities here, especially the 3-axis, the kill chain, KAMD, drones, the ultra robots that we're now fielding, as well as indigenous weaponry, the KF-21, which is a very advanced aircraft, and other export items that we have now. And I'm sure everybody is focused on the Hyunmoo-5, the very large missile that is going to be showcased today. So I think those are some of the things that people will be interested in.
And the Hyunmoo-5 ballistic missile, it actually drew a lot of attention during this morning's commemorative ceremony, right?
Yes. The size, all of that is impressive. But what I was impressed with was the way that the tele-erector launcher was able to move sideways. If you notice very closely, the wheels enable it to move sideways, which is not easy. So it was a good showcase of capabilities.
And what do you expect from this military parade, Professor Kim?
Yes, among the hardware to be displayed, I also have common point with General John. Key assets of the 3-axis system, including Hyunmoo 4 and 5 missiles, and also missile defense systems, including LSAM and Cheonggung-2 systems, will be eye-catching. Also, the hot export items, K2 tanks and K9 Howitzers, will be also eye-catching too.
Right, and as we speak, it seems that the military parade has begun. Today's parade will start with the entrance of patriotic heroes. Now, by far as I remember, General Chun, last year's military parade didn't have this event at the very start, right?
Yes. So I think last year there was a learning process that occurred. We were not prepared to have all of the capabilities shown. So there was a little bit of a point where I thought that we could have shown more. But this year I think we're much more ready. And as the screen shows, we are seeing some great people that make up the history of the Republic of Korea military and the security of the Korean people. That, as well as this year, the full array and spectrum of Korean technology and weaponry will be showcased.
I see. Now, to you, General Jung, once again, by showing the car parade and the entrance of patriotic heroes, what kind of impact could this have to the people who are actually watching this live coverage?
Yeah, you know, unbeknownst to us, many people sacrificed for the freedom that we enjoy. And up until now, they were not remembered. I won't say forgotten, but they were not remembered. And in some cases, yes, they were forgotten. And during this year's 76th anniversary, I'm very happy and chagrined to see that these patriots, those who sacrificed, those who gave up everything, are being remembered, and that we are having an opportunity to honor them.
And Professor Kim, what are your thoughts on this car parade of the patriotic heroes? They include soldiers who sacrificed their lives while fighting during the Korean War or the war in Vietnam, and also the bereaved family members of those who sacrificed. What do you think?
Yes, I agree with General John. That is, we should give more and deeper social recognition to those patriots and their remaining families. That's the way we can ensure peace and stability for the younger generation. who are growing up right now.
Right, and currently we're seeing the car parade of the patriotic heroes. As two of our experts mentioned, they include those who fought during the Korean War, also the bereaved family members of those who sacrificed themselves while fighting for the country during the Korean War, the war in Vietnam as well, and also many people who actually contributed greatly to the development of South Korea's defense industry. And we're currently seeing President Yoon Suk-yeol watching the car parade of the patriotic heroes. So it seems that the patriotic heroes will soon enter the stage of the military parade. And I think that we're seeing some air and fighter jets up on the sky, right, General Chun?
Yes, those are T-50, actually those are FA-50 aircraft. FA-50s are a variant of the T-50. It's a fighter version of their aircraft. It's in my view, the world's best trainer in the world.
Oh.
And from that T-50 variant, we have modified that into a close combat fighter aircraft, which we now call the FA-50. It's also called the Fighting Falcon.
Why do you think it can be called as the best in the world, General Chun?
For that generation, the T-50, which is called the Golden Eagle, is a aircraft that trains jet pilots at the second and third level. I am proud to say as a Korean that I'm biased, but I believe the T-50, amongst all the trainer aircraft in the world, and there aren't that many, is probably the best. And so we made a good investment in developing that aircraft. And from that aircraft, we now have a fighter version, which is the FA-50, and its main mission is to conduct air-to-ground attack operations.
Air-to-ground operations. Now we're currently seeing President Yoon Suk-yeol welcoming the patriotic heroes at the military parade site. Now I also want to ask you, Professor Kim, the FA-50 has been referred to as the flagship of Korea's defense industry. Other than what General Chun mentioned, what aspects of this aircraft do you think have earned it that title?
Yes. Aerospace industry represents a culmination of one country's industrial capability, and especially making fighter jets are very difficult, not only because of the technological reasons, but also with business feasibility issues. And FA-50, T-50 series have overcome this issue very nicely. First, they are very cost-effective compared to comparable aircraft in the world. Second, they have compatibility with US and European weapon systems and training systems. Therefore, they can raise future generation pilots at a very reasonable cost. Thirdly, many countries, when buying jet aircraft, they use high and low mix strategy. That is how this aircraft could hit the market, by providing relatively reasonable priced platforms in the market. In addition to that, we have entered maintenance and repair operation MRO in Iraq and Philippines with this aircraft. And also last word, this aircraft laid foundation for additional new fighter jet, KF-21.
So it's definitely a very promising news for Korea's defense industry,
Sure.
right, Professor Kim?
Sure.
Right. And I think that we're currently seeing some cars now entering the military parade site. General Chun, what do you think this is?
President Yoon is the commander-in-chief
Right.
of the ROK military, and I noticed that he personally greeted all the patriots who are very senior people in age and in experience. So that was very heartwarming to see the commander-in-chief personally welcoming these gentlemen and ladies. I think the parade will soon start with the military police motorcade.
Is
Yes.
this what we're seeing right now?
Yes, it is. Those are the Capitol Defense Command military police force. Their main duties are what any police force would do, law and order and keeping security. Also, they have an anti-terror mission, and they have a small unit that conducts anti-terrorist operations.
I see. And we're currently seeing the fixed wing formation flights. I think we are seeing several fighter jets. So what could be some standout models that are currently participating in this flight, General Chun?
I believe all the Korean fighters, the F-16s, F-15s, and the F-35s that we possess are in participation. So the whole fleet of ROK Air Force fighters are on display at the moment. This is a rare scene that we do not get to see. F-15s, F-16s, and F-35s in one flyby.
I see. Now, Professor Kim, out of all these fighter jets that are currently doing the fixed formation flight, are there any other models that you would like to point out or introduce to our viewers?
Actually, during this morning ceremony, we could see KF-21 entering the site, but I don't think KF-21 will appear this afternoon. So if it had appeared, people would have more joy with the indigenous fighter. So
Maybe we'll get to see it next year,
time.
during next year's military parade.
Yes. And in that sense, I completely agree with General Chun in the sense that 5-year term, 5-year cycle is too long.
Because we can miss out on the latest models and their standout features, right? And we are currently seeing a colorful portrayal by the fixed formation flights. And I could definitely see that a lot of people gathered at the Gwanghwamun Square today to watch this military parade. What are your thoughts on this, General Chun? We could see people waving and greeting all the troops.
I think, although some might feel that it's very loud, that especially the children will find this very educational, and that the elderly will find it very reassuring that we have such an Air Force that is capable of operations and displays like that. So right now we're seeing some F-16s, F-15s actually flying by. They are very capable aircraft. And to see them like that at this range, especially over Seoul, is a rare event. So I think the citizens will enjoy this very much.
And I think that we're currently seeing the marching of the equipment unit currently coming in. So General Chun, for our viewers, what exactly is the equipment unit and what does it do?
Right now on screen, we're seeing the K-21. It's an armored infantry fighting vehicle.
Right.
So it's not only a personnel carrier, it actually has the ability to provide fire support. So this vehicle is able to transport troops and to a degree provide limited fire support. And the gun that it has on top of it has a very potent capability. Right now we're seeing the very famous K9 self-propelled artillery piece, and followed by that it is the multiple rocket launcher, the Chunmoo.
I see. Now, when talking about South Korea's defense industry, Professor Kim, we cannot leave out the K9 self-propelled howitzer. It's been hailed as playing a major role in Korea's defense exports. So do tell us more about that.
Yes, K9 self-propelled howitzers are the best seller in the world market. And people think these days it is even better than the German equivalent model. And K9 howitzers has its own future plans to be improved into A2, A3 versions. It could incorporate autonomous driving in the future. So that's the future.
And we're currently seeing the defense unit marching in. So, General Chun, what are some of the weaponry that we should put an eye on in South Korea's defense unit?
Well, all of those weapon systems are 70 to 90% Korean made.
Impressive.
So, yes, and the rest is mostly because it's less expensive to import than rather to develop on our own. So a lot of that is indigenous. Having said that, we're seeing all of the new equipment that is Korean made, except for some of the aircraft that are on display, especially on the ground. All of those equipment are made in Korea. and with Korean technology. And we're now increased our ability to produce and export to help other nations, democratic nations, defend themselves and secure their peace. So we're seeing that right now.
And the weapon system we've seen until now could be seen as a present of South Korea's defense system. Now, what we're seeing right now, the unmanned vehicle or the unmanned weapon system, it could be seen as a future of the Korean defense system, right, General John?
Yes, actually, it's the present.
Oh, present.
So drones, UAVs are now being used, and it is probably going to be the weapon of the future that needs to be developed now. And so we're seeing what Korea, a limited version of what we have right now. It's always not prudent to show everything that you have.
Right.
So all the capabilities that are already known are being showcased to the Korean public.
And among the unmanned weapon system, Professor Kim, are there any weapon systems that has been exported overseas or eyeing for a deal?
Unfortunately, to my knowledge, UAV areas, we need to invest more, and that does not mean we are behind in terms of technological level, but we should find the international trend, lessons from the Ukraine war, Israel-Hamas, Israel-Hezbollah war, and then we have to reshape the landscape of the UAV industry as well.
That's why they're being called as the weapons of the future.
Yes.
And General Chung, what is this that we're currently seeing on the screen?
So that's a Taurus. So it is not a ground-launched weapon system. It is actually a system that is loaded onto an airplane. And when an airplane has that weapon system, it does not need to go over the target. In other words, it does not have to go into dangerous territory. It can shoot the missile at great range. These type of weapons are called standoff missiles. And so that is a great standoff missile with great accuracy. So we can take out most of the threats that might be presented by North Korea towards Seoul.
So it is definitely a key asset of South Korea's military, right?
Yes, it is.
And we're seeing some helicopters currently
Yes.
flying over the air.
Yes.
Could you please tell us more about them too?
So that is the Apache helicopter. It was originally, it's a heavy attack helicopter. So what that means is it can carry a lot of weaponry, a lot of missiles, rockets. It has a 30 millimeter chain gun, which will cut through armor very easily. So one of those helicopters is as good as 10 tanks.
Wow.
So we have a good fleet of them, and we just saw a fleet pass by.
I see. And we're seeing some more weaponry currently being introduced and marching into the military parade side. I think that I just saw the 대한민국 해군, which means the naval forces, right, General John?
Yes, so the missile that you just saw was our missiles that are loaded on ships for anti-ship. That means a ship attacking another ship. But our ships need to defend themselves against incoming missiles or aircraft. And what we saw was the SM-3, which does exactly that. It's an anti-aircraft missile.
I see. Now, Professor Kim, a lot of weapons just passed by. Are there any of the weapons that particularly drew your attention?
My attention. Well, General Chun mentioned K-21 infantry fighting vehicles. We have newer ground equipment introduced into the scene, and we have armor recovery vehicles. Also, we have the other military hardwares. And in addition to that, I'd like to mention that about the helicopter fleet. Even in the helicopter area, the future trend is to combine existing helicopters with unmanned teaming. It's called MUMT, manned unmanned teaming. So that's the way helicopters can increase their survivability as well. And that's the way the future warfare, the environment tells us to do.
Interesting. And I think that we just saw the honor guards marching into the site. Now, General John, I heard that in order to be selected to this honor guard, the process isn't easy, right?
Yes, it's quite complicated and strict. Physical fitness, of course, is number one, and keeping standards is not easy, so they have to be mentally healthy as well. Rigorous, continuous training occurs, so there's a lot of patience that needs to be involved. So these are soldiers among soldiers.
Soldiers among soldiers. And currently we're seeing, I guess, infantry units entering the military site, and we're also seeing some military equipment as well. So please introduce us to that too, General Chun.
So right now we're seeing the military band. Most people don't appreciate the military band as much. The military band is very important for morale, and historically, the military band is amongst the bravest of soldiers because they provide, despite all the chaos in war, a steady hand. And so if you look at the overall discipline of units, the military band is right up there at the top.
So the military band is currently performing at the military parade site. You are currently seeing a footage of them.
So that's the Army band there.
And we're seeing a diverse array of flags. So what do each flag signal, General John?
So those are the flags of each services, Army, Navy, Air Force, Marine Corps. They represent the best of the Korean military, as well as the Ministry of National Defense and all the major commands. So this is an integrated joint exhibition that is being led by the Combined Arms Headquarters.
And after the marching of the military band, it appears that we're going to see the marching of the infantry units, right?
Yes, to be more exact, it's the land forces. Infantry is a component of the land forces, and yes, in the land forces we will see the infantry as well as various other occupational services.
And Professor Kim, while we're waiting for them to march in, I want to ask you, as mentioned earlier, dozens of military equipment and weapon systems were introduced at the military parade, which we just saw. And based on what you've seen today, what do you think is the prospect of Korea's defense exports or industry in the future?
Among the ground equipment we have seen on the screen, as we all know, K2 tanks are one of the best export items, including the Poland deal. That is also discussed for Romanian deal as well. And also K21 could enter European market. And with the K21, we can say an advanced version of that infantry fighting vehicle named Redback, designed by Hanwha, produced and acquired by Australian government, which won the competition against the German variant called Lynx a few years ago. I think that has export potentials as well.
Right. And we are currently seeing the marching of the Korea Military Academy cadets. Now, for our international viewers, General Chun, if you enter the Korea Military Academy, what will your future look like?
Hopefully it will look like the pride of defending your country.
Right.
You'll be commissioned a second lieutenant. You have an obligation to serve for 5 years minimum, 10 years maximum. And in many cases within the military, there are many career fields. You don't have to be a combat soldier. You can be a professor, you can be a doctor, you can be a lawyer. So there are many professions and opportunities going into the military academy. And the Republic of Korea has the Army, Air Force, and Navy academies, as well as other sources of commission.
Right, we are currently seeing the marching of the Korean Military Academy. Now, General John, I want to ask you, so these, the people we are seeing right now on the screen, they are cadets. So as a cadet, what does what will it mean for them to actually participate in this military parade?
It's hard, but once you experience it, you only get to experience it once, even if this was an annual affair. And you feel very proud of it. And I was part of this 40 years ago, and I'm still proud of the fact. So I'm sure that the cadets will be very proud that they participated in this event.
And I heard that the preparation for this military parade isn't easy. It's actually really rigorous, right?
Yes. So I believe this time they conducted a 2-month preparation, but it's not that long. Normally it could have run for 3 months or more. But they're doing a pretty good job for just practicing for 2 months.
I see. Now, could you tell us more about the soldiers that we're currently seeing on screen, General?
So, followed by the cadets, you can see the Korean Special Forces, and they're unique in that their headgear is a black beret. So, the Korean military infantry does not have that kind of uniform. So, the signature uniform for the Korean Special Forces is the black berets. And followed by them are your regular Army units, as well as the blue are for our International Peacekeeping Force, and following them are Naval Special Forces units.
And Professor Kim, these soldiers are showing a very coordinated movement. What are your thoughts on this, watching this march?
I think people worry about younger generation, so-called MG generation, but as we see on the screen, they are well grown up, they are doing their military duties so well, so people are relieved. People should take pride on them.
Definitely. And we're currently seeing soldiers wearing white uniforms. General John, could you please tell us who they are?
Those are sailors, so that's their Class A uniform, the Navy's best. And the command group of the naval unit there is marching at the head of their unit, so that's what we're seeing.
And this may kind of sound like a very light and funny question, but many people wonder, why is the Navy's uniform white when compared to the uniform is white, so is there a specific reason why the Navy's uniform is in the color white?
The Navy is a proud tradition of soldiering. And this uniform is not a duty uniform. It is for special occasions. So keeping it very clean, you must be able to be aware of your environment, making sure that not a speck is on the white uniform. So it's to discipline yourself, to show pride in your uniform and in your profession.
Right. Now it seems that we're seeing more military bands entering the site. So which military band are they, General John?
So these are the Navy military band, and followed by them are naval officers and petty officers, as well as the Navy Academy cadets that are being followed.
And I also want to ask you, we are seeing flag units carrying the flags at the parade. What does holding and marching with the flag kind of symbolize, or why is it important?
Every fighting unit needs to maintain their unity and cohesiveness. And the best way is to have a rallying point. And throughout the generations, throughout the centuries, the flag has a special meaning. Men will die to protect the flag. So the flag represents not only yourself, your unit, but the purpose and goals of what you are. So that is the significance of the flag. So the units that are participating are given the honor of displaying their flags.
I see. Now, as we're watching these troops marching in, I want to ask you, Professor Kim, you're an expert in defense industry and defense exports. How do you evaluate South Korea's defense industry? How do you evaluate its performance so far this year?
This year, according to sources, we are expected to wait reaching the goal of almost $20 billion amount export. But the nature of the defense export is that it's a multi-year project, so it's not easy to cut the amount into the years sometimes. But anyway, we are growing in size. Also, we are growing in quality as well. We are exporting from small arms to high-tech weapons, as we discussed earlier.
Then are there any major export deals that our country secured this year so far?
Yes. Very recently, Iraq purchased the Cheonggung-2 surface-to-air missiles that can defend against the country against missiles and aircraft, with a deal size of almost $2.6 billion. And we have small deal, although export of K-808 armored wheeled vehicles exported to Peru. And then that vehicle is about to be exported to other countries as well.
Is this performance relatively better when compared to the deals that South Korea secured last year, Professor?
As I said, because the defense contracts are multi-year, for example, about two and a half years ago when we had a big jackpot like deal with Poland, that is to be executed over the years. So it's not easy to compare year to year, but I would say there's a waves, big waves, small waves coming in each different year.
I see. And as we're seeing on the screen, General John, we are seeing flags from multiple countries. So what are we seeing currently?
Those are the flags of the UN sending states. A lot of them participated in the Korean War, and to this day they're committed to the stability and peace of the Korean Peninsula. So we are seeing flags from the United States, the United Kingdom, New Zealand, Australia, Canada, and many other countries, and Swiss and Switzerland. That's the 8th Army Band there, and I think that this multitude of nations just is an evidence of the solidarity of the free world for stability in Northeast Asia.
And I remember that last year during the military parade, we also saw the participation and the marching of U.S. troops, and that also captured a lot of attention. So I think you mentioned this earlier, but what does it mean for the U.S. troops to actually take part in South Korea's military parade?
So I think it represents that it's not a South Korean parade only, but it is an allied parade, that we are allied towards securing and protecting the freedom of the Korean people, as well as the security and stability of Northeast Asia. So this is a good showcase of resolve and readiness, and remembering that these allies were with us for the past 70 plus years. So all of that coincides with the initial meaning of this whole event.
Right, I see. And I also want to ask you, Professor Kim, what kind of potential impact or influence could the participation of U.S. troops to the Korea's Armed Forces, the military parade, have? Could it have an influence on South Korea's defense industry, or what could it show to the world?
I think in general, what General John has described is correct in the sense that it's more symbolic. Meaning, it's a national military day for Korean Army, Navy, and Air Force, but the U.S. presence in Korea, they want to show their presence here and try to show strong ironclad relationships between the two countries.
Right. So you are currently tuning in to Arirang's special live coverage of South Korea's Armed Forces Day military parade. Now, I think that we're seeing some new troops entering the parade site right now. General John, could you please tell us who they are?
Yes, this is the final stage. It seems they are the Nurses Corps, the Nurses Academy. We also have an academy for future nurses of the Republic of Korea. They're probably the smartest young, predominantly women, but we have male nurses as well. They go through a 2-year academy course. They all have to take national medical exams, 100% pass, and they pass with flying colors. And they serve as nurses, assisting doctors in the field of treating wounded soldiers.
Right. And I think that we just heard that the Marine will soon enter the military parade. Now, General Chun, South Korean Marine, they're often called as having the ability to even catch a ghost. So that's what people often say here in Korea. Why do you think people have given the Marine this kind of nickname?
So the nickname originates from the Korean War and Vietnam. The Marines have never lost a battle since, and they're proud of it. And in order to maintain that tradition, although this is a conscript military, the Marine Corps has a special spirit of corps that they enjoy and they must live up to. And so they do have that nickname, but they must live up to it.
Right. And you're currently seeing the large giant taegukgi marching down the military side, which means that the military parade is almost coming to an end, right, General?
Yes, they're going to assemble in front of Gyeongbok Palace. And at that palace, they will be ordered to disperse, and that will be the formal end of today's street parade.
I see. So we're almost heading to the end of the almost hour-long actual military parade commemorating the 76th anniversary of the founding of the Republic of Korea Armed Forces. Now, Professor Kim, we're almost, as mentioned earlier, we're almost heading to the end of this event. What were your thoughts on this showcase of South Korea's latest weapon system as well as the troops marching down the street?
Yes. First, as we saw on the screen, the younger generation soldiers were well educated, well grown up. They're doing their duties proudly, and that's something we should value, cherish. And everybody saw that, not only in Korea, also overseas. And in terms of weaponry, I think we are well shaped, and we showed the all new weapons lined up, and that shows that the armed forces increased in terms of quality as well.
And it's actually one of the major issues that the Korean military is facing is the decrease or the lack of young military personnel. So what are your thoughts on this, Professor?
Actually, it may sound strange, but medical sector and military sector have common points. That is, they became high-tech intensive. They don't want to shed blood. They want to save lives. In the combat, even in the combat situation, they want to shed less blood and win the battle. So in that sense, medical sector and military sector, they're becoming more high-tech intensive, equipment intensive, and saving lives. And that means we are changing the philosophy of operating, managing the military from the beginning, from the fundamental side. So that's what we should work on.
I also want to ask the same question to you, General Chun.
So it is a very serious problem and challenge. Amongst all the equipment that we saw, I would say that the most important are the people. And it's not just Korea, but many nations now face this problem. I think COVID had a hand in it, making it very difficult. But now we're trying to focus on this. So it's not. It ties in with the fact that low birth rate, the changing values of society, and I think the military parade like this really helps with recruitment as well. So again, having this event showcasing our equipment as well as our men and women is very important to alleviate some of that issue that you just mentioned.
I see. And from what I remember, when the government first announced that it's going to hold the military parade this year, they kind of promised that it will be more open and easier for the public to participate. Based on what you saw today, do you agree?
Yes, I think we just saw ordinary citizens marching along various civic organizations participating. People seem very happy. It's not regulated as such. And I think a mood of participation is there. And I'm really happy that it's not raining.
Right, because last year it rained quite heavily, right? So which impacted the type of weapons that were supposed to be showcased at last year's military parade, right?
Yes. Weapons are usually all weather, so it's okay, but we don't want to risk safety for demonstrations. So it's mostly avionics, fixed wing or rotary, but this year, this is perfect weather. The temperature is bearable. It's not raining, and so I think it's a very auspicious day.
Did you also watch last year's military parade too, Professor Kim?
Yes, I did.
When compared to last year, what do you think? How do you think today's military parade was?
Today's parade is much vivid, lively, and not rigid. And I agree with General John that this kind of parade should be operated like a festival.
Do you think it was less rigid because we saw the participation of the general public as well?
No, meaning last year's parade, we didn't do that for a long time, and we have to realign all those things, and also the rainy weather that made the situation a bit rigid. But compared to 70s, 80s, and early 90s, today and last year's parades are much better, mingling with citizens, waving hands. Those are good things, like instead of showing the very rigid formation.
Right, definitely. And I want to ask you, General Chun, the large taegeuk is currently heading towards the Gyeongbokgung Palace. Is there a reason why the military parade is currently taking place in Gwanghwamun Square and heading towards the Gyeongbokgung Palace?
Traditionally, this is where the marching always extended. Now, in the very, very old days, in the 70s and 80s, it actually started in the Seoul Station area and lasted throughout Cheongno, which is about twice the range. So this is actually about half of what we used to have. But it's nice to have a culmination ceremony like this because in the old days that did not happen. So I think the president, who is the commander-in-chief, not only starts the event, but he culminates the event as it should be. So in front of Gyeongbok Palace is a right place to do this.
And when it comes to thinking about the concept of military parade in general, some people think or have this question of how is this military parade different from the military parade that we often see in the news, which is the one carried out by North Korea. So how is it different?
I think the purpose is different. We're not a belligerent. We do not threaten anybody. And our purpose is to protect the people. Whilst a country like the DPRK, the military's purpose, and it's stated in their constitution, is to protect Kim Jong-un. So fundamentally, the purpose and existence of these armed forces is different. I and those soldiers there protect the people. We protect you and your family.
Right.
Vice organizations like North Korea, their People's Liberation Army, they protect one demigod. So that's a basic difference.
Do you also agree, Professor Kim?
Sure. And especially in the North, spectators are mobilized. In our case, people come voluntarily to cheer up. So, huge difference.
And what also kind of drew attention, continuing on from last year during the military parade this year, was the 3-axis system. I think we didn't get to fully discuss this while we were watching the live footage. So General Jung, could you briefly explain to our viewers what is the so-called South Korea's 3-axis system?
So the 3-axis system is a system to counter the North Korean nuclear threat. The first axis is the kill chain. This kill chain is to detect North Korean nuclear activity and, if need be, to prevent the launch of a missile or whatever delivery system it may be. The second axis is the Korea Air Missile Defense System. It is an elaborate system to shoot down any incoming missile from North Korea or anybody else. Finally, the third axis is the KMPR, the Korea Massive Punishment and Retaliation. Should a North Korean strike occur, we will retaliate with our missiles as well. Some people think that North Korea has nuclear weapons and we don't have nuclear weapons, so that is a big imbalance. But we have the United States extended deterrence. But even if we didn't have that, there's one thing that's sure. If North Korea uses nuclear weapons, it'll be the end of the Kim regime. So whether North Korea has 100 nuclear weapons or 1,000 nuclear weapons, if they use just one thing is very clear: Kim Jong-un will be dead.
Sending a strong message by utilizing South Korea's three-axis system. Now, it seems like President Yoon is coming down from the celebratory stage of the military parade, and it seems like he is heading towards the large taegukgi, right, General John?
Yes, so he is positioning himself to address the troops, commend them for their hard work, and congratulate them for their success. So he is moving with the ROK security leadership to the main area, to the main podium where he will address the soldiers. And you can see a variety of people. It's not just the leadership, but everyone that has participated in this joyful event.
Right. We are seeing President Yoon Suk-yeol and key figures, as well as members of the general public, marching with the large taegukgi, the Korean national flag. Now, going back to our discussion of South Korea's three-axis system, I want to ask you, Professor Kim, what do you consider to be the core assets of this system and why?
Oh, yes. I will mention two things. One is, as General John mentioned, massive retaliation, what we saw this year, Hyunwoo 5 ballistic missiles and Hyunwoo 4 missiles, which we saw for the first time last year. As we see from the recent Israel-Hezbollah conflict, massive bombing in a concentrated area will bring a strategic impact, and that's the role of those new missiles. Also, the air defense system, what we have now and what we export to other countries, is something that we should boast of. That is, there are not many countries that can make those systems, very elaborate system, and we have multiple coverage from the high altitude, and that LSAM missile has growth potential to complement THAAD, and in the future possibly can exceed THAAD in some ways.
As far as I know, the LSM was unveiled to the public the first time during last year's Armed Forces Military Parade,
Sure.
right?
Sure.
And I also want to ask you the same question, General Chun. What do you think are the core assets of Korea's three-axis system?
We're now pursuing our own reconnaissance systems into North Korea. So we have electronic aircraft, deep-seeing aircraft, and satellites. This is a big step. So that's very important for us. We need to know what's going on over there. And then we have our strike capability, notably the Hyunwoo 5, but the Hyunwoo 3 series, which is cruise missiles, are very effective weapon systems as well. We also have the Korean Special Forces. So human injections into North Korea can be possible to conduct missions to disrupt North Korean activity. And of course, we have a variety of layered air defense systems. And then of course, if the North Koreans ever were to conduct a missile attack onto South Korean territory, we have thousands of missiles ready as well. So, but we don't want war.
Right.
Nobody wins. So hopefully North Korea will make sure that that kind of weapon system will not be used.
I see. We're continuously seeing the large 태극기 heading towards the Gyeongbokgung Palace, which is across the Gwanghwamun Square. Now, General Jeon, after this 태극기 approaches the Gyeongbokgung Palace, what do you expect will happen?
So I think they plan on the reenactment of the liberation of Seoul.
Right.
This happened in 1950 in September of 28th of September. So this is to remember the event where it was the turning point of the Korean War. Until then, we were struggling. And on this day, we were able to start the offensive to liberate South Korea. So that is going to be reenacted by one of the veterans who actually was at that point in 1950.
That's definitely something to look forward to during this year's military parade. Right, so we're currently seeing the large 태극기 marching towards Gyeongbokgung Palace with President Yoon Suk-yeol and some key figures. I think we're also seeing South Korea's defense minister, right?
Yes, to President Yoon, you can see Minister Kim, who's to his right, and the gentleman who's wearing the white uniform to President Yoon's left is the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, Admiral Kim Myung-soo. So the leadership is there as well.
I see.
And if you look very closely, you can see other foreign dignitaries as well, representing the United States and other nations.
And could you tell us more about the people who are actually carrying the large 태극기 and marching down the street right now, General Jeon?
They're from all walks of society, young and old. So it represents not only the Republic of Korea, but more importantly, the people who formed the Republic of Korea. And I also believe that there are people who are not born in Korea as well, who became Korean. So I think we Koreans are proud enough to say that we are an open society. We welcome anyone who shares the values of peace and prosperity. So it represents all of those things.
And could you also share your insights on watching this large 태극기 march, Professor Kim?
I think it was impressive, and I think we should establish some sort of format in this parade scenario, and perhaps this could be one of the fixed menu, but we should get some more opinions whether to maintain this or not.
And we're seeing the celebratory flight by Black Eagles. Now, as far as I remember, last year this event and this schedule was canceled due to the bad weather, right?
Yes, but it's a very clear autumn day. The Black Eagles is a demonstration flight that has performed throughout the world. They hold a 100% safety record, and it's a great finale to see the Korean flag and the Black Eagles providing that kind of coverage.
Right, and we're currently seeing the large 태극기 which marched down the Gwanghwamun Square up to Gyeongbokgung Palace, currently being flown over the air. It definitely seems like the ceremony is heading towards its end. Now, what are your thoughts on after watching the Black Eagles performance, Professor Kim?
Oh, well, they are national pride, and they contributed a lot in the export of the fighter jets overseas, as well as other defense products. Also, it's not easy to maintain a specially dedicated acrobatic team like Black Eagle. So I appreciate that effort.
Right. Right, and we're currently listening to a song that's being sung at the military parade site. Could you tell us more about what's being sung, General Jeon?
It's actually titled Raising the Flag, Raising 태극기.
Fits perfectly well with what we're seeing right now.
Yes, and if you notice, everybody is participating it's a very joyous event.
Right, and I think that we're about to hear remarks from South Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol.
국군 장병 여러분,
Soldiers of the armed
오늘
forces,
행사에 수고 많았습니다.
thank you very much for your hard work
여러분의
for today's
당당한 모습을
celebration.
보니
Seeing you
대견하고
so
든든합니다.
proud and strong,
국민들께서도
I feel
우리
reassured.
군의
And I know that
굳건한
the Korean
안보
people
태세를
as well
확인하고
had
마음을
been
놓으셨을
reassured by the very steadfast
장병
readiness
여러분은
posture. The
자유
soldiers of the armed
대한민국의
forces,
든든한
you
토대입니다.
are the reliable base
여러분
for
덕분에
the free and
국민들께서
democratic Republic of
안심하고
Korea. Thanks to
경제,
your
사회
work,
활동을
hard work,
하고
the
계십니다.
people have peace in mind and
저는
can live their daily
여러분의
lives.
땀과 헌신을
I
누구보다 잘
know
알고
better than
있습니다.
anyone else your
여러분께서
sweat and your
노력하시는
efforts.
만큼
And the efforts
국가가
that you
충분히
pay,
뒷받침할 수 있도록
the government and the state
지원과
will
처우에
support
최선을 다할
you
것입니다.
to the utmost,
국군
and we will do our
통수권자로서
best to do so. As the
국군
Commander-in-Chief,
장병 여러분을 무한히 신뢰하며
I have
국민과 함께
eternal
힘껏
reliability and trust in you, and I will cheer on for you together with the people. Thank you very much for your encouraging words. Let us
Right,
repeat
so we're
the-
currently seeing
with our
and
loudest
listening
voice.
to the remarks of President Yoon Suk-yeol. General John, what did you think of President Yoon Suk-yeol's remarks at the parade?
I think he showed appreciation for the soldiers, that he reminded all of us the value of freedom and that freedom is not free. So as the Commander-in-Chief, I think he feels very proud of the soldiers and sailors and airmen that he leads.
He must be. We've seen some great dedication and commitment for all those who participate in the military parade today. Now, what about you, Professor Kim? What did you think of President Yoon's remarks?
Yes, his remarks were very appropriate and sensible, and his word as the commander of the armed forces and the president will cheer up all military forces as well as give pride to the citizens.
I see. And we're currently seeing another celebratory flight currently in the footage that we're seeing right now. So, General John, what types of jets are currently participating in this flight? Can you recognize them?
Yes, those are the T-50s. Those are the aircraft that is used by the Black Eagles. And as you can see, they're very capable. So again, it is the world's best trainer that is out there. There aren't that many of them, but the T-50 I can vouch is, in my view, the best in the world.
They are definitely flying in a coordinated manner. Now, that was our live coverage of South Korea's Armed Forces Day military parade for this year. So ending off, I want to ask our two experts, what did you make of today's military parade?
Well, I'm very happy and I'm very proud as a Korean to see the Korean Armed Forces doing its best and being capable of doing its basic mission. But at the same time, I know that this has to be continued, so I hope that the men and women serving in uniform will be doing their utmost, but I also know that people like myself who are retired and the general public must support the military, and that is the only way that the military can do their job.
And we, as the general public, should show continued support to our military, right?
Yes, support and interest in the affairs of the military.
Support and interest indeed. Now, I also want to ask you, Professor John, which part of this year's military parade especially stood out to you?
Yes, this parade that we saw today showed appreciation to the armed forces, a very sensible way, and by the president, also by the society. And I think armed forces in general appreciated that appreciation. And I think we should do this parade more frequently, not just a 5-year cycle. And it should be much more festival-like event where citizens can participate and feel national pride and satisfaction as a citizen as well as taxpayers. Because the equipment, all those things, is built with the tax money. And so we should, as citizens, should take pride in what we saw today.
Definitely. And last but not least, we cannot leave out talking about the weaponry or the weapon system that were showcased at this year's parade. I want to ask you, General John, what do you think were the highlights, although there were so many?
So obviously the Hyunmoo 5, the mega missile, is in everybody's interest. The KF-21, which is a advanced fighter that not many countries are able to make. So far, so good. We've seen other equipment, a full array. Most of the best ones are now being bought by other countries. But to me, as a former professional military person, the best equipment can only be possible with good people.
Sure.
And so what I saw today was the men and women, the soldiers, the sailors, the Marines, serving and parading because they represent the best of the Korean military as well as the best of our society.
Couldn't agree with you more. Now, I also want to ask your opinion, Professor Kim, as well.
Yes, I agree in general with General John. That is, we saw a variety of new weaponry, and that is up-to-date, cutting-edge weapons, which makes us quite satisfied with what we saw. But above all, and most of all, the people who participated in the parade were the most important, and we could feel pride from what they did. And we should give more encouragement so that they can maintain their duty with their recognition understood by everybody.
Definitely more recognition and support needed for all the servicemen and women who took part in today's military parade, as well as those who are part of South Korea's armed forces. Now, that wraps up our live coverage of this year's Armed Forces Day military parade, celebrating the 76th anniversary of the founding of the Republic of Korea Armed Forces. Special thanks today to General Chun In-bum. Thank you. And Professor Kim Jun-mo.
My pleasure.
And thank you to our viewers who are watching. And be sure to stay tuned for more coverage of the parade in our upcoming newscast. Coming up later is Arirang News at 6 p.m. Korea time.